Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Game Vault video. As always, I'm Cat Beefy with the Game Vault, and we're going to talk a little bit about Ubisoft today and their stock prices, which seem to be tumbling down. They're down about half their value from a year ago, roughly. They were just around $6 at this time last year on September 11th, and this year they're just under $3. So things are looking bad. Let's cue up the music and we'll talk about it. So, this is something I've been harping on for a while now with these companies that want to put out woke garbage, DEI-infused games. Stuff like, a feudal Japan samurai game with a black protagonist. It's coming down to investors needing to hold these guys accountable for what they're doing because they're losing money left and right. They're not making the money they should be making. Even if they are making money, they're losing it. Then you got situations like Concord, where the game was pulled after 2 weeks, 8 years of development, $200 million pulled in 2 weeks. That's terrible. Everyone on that team deserves to go. But Ubisoft is in trouble a little bit themselves right now, stock-wise. So, let's see. Their share price tumbled once again after a minority investor called for the company to go private. Ubisoft stocks took a hit last week, falling more than 10% in 2 days following the release of Star Wars Outlaws. Now, Ubisoft was touting that Outlaws was going to be this huge, amazing game, and there was a lot of backlash surrounding the game pretty much ever since it was announced. Accusations of making the protagonist an ugly woman for the trans eye were out there, and I can see where they're coming from there because she is very masculine looking. They called her Ma'am Solo. It's just another Star Wars product led by that strong Mary Jane female character. I'm assuming she's a Mary Jane. I'm not playing the game. Ubisoft's not getting my money, not for a long time. They're doing so many things, doing almost everything wrong you can do as a gaming developer, and it's got to stop, and they're not going to get my money until they fix what they're doing. But anyway, at the time, the share price of Ubisoft Entertainment fell to $15.34, the lowest it's been since 2014. The firm's market cap was then $1.97 billion. Now shares have plunged even further, closing 7.1% down on Monday, September 9th at $13.67. WSJ reports that Juraj Krupa of the AJ Investments and Partners has written an open letter to the board outlining its deep dissatisfaction with the current performance and strategic direction of the company. Consequently, the Slovakian hedge fund is calling for CEO Yves Guillemot and the board to take Ubisoft private or allow it to sell to strategic investor. Now, stating that Ubisoft is a great undervalued company, the minority stakeholder who holds less than 1% is also calling for a change of the current management and a new CEO who will optimize the cost and studio structure for a more agile and competitive company as Ubisoft should be. Now, Ubisoft's had it rough this year. Skull and Bones was a massive failure after years and years of development, and who knows how much money was put into that. The game basically had to get released because the Singapore government actually invested in the game, and part of the deal was no matter what, I guess, the game had to come out. These companies make these deals with the devil sometimes, like Wildcard making a deal with Nitrado, giving them the sole right to host private servers as well as the servers for Ark Survival Ascended for a few $1 million. I mean, my God, what were they thinking at the time? You sell your soul to the devil when you do stuff like that. It's absolutely terrible. But Ubisoft, Skull and Bones was a big failure. Star Wars Outlaws, I guess, is underperforming from what I hear. I haven't seen any hard numbers yet, based off their expectations and the real numbers as far as what has been selling. But, I know there's a lot of backlash around the game. A lot of people were like, I don't know about this one. And then when the game released, of course your normal reviewers and all that went out there and, oh yeah, this is wonderful and blah, blah, blah. And you got your fanboys out there that'll love anything Ubisoft puts out, no matter how bland it is or whatever, And I get it. People are faithful that way to brands sometimes or to companies sometimes. I don't get why all the time. Although, I do it myself to some degree with something like Wildcard, a company that routinely screws me over with Ark Survival Ascended. Every time they release something new, it turns into frustration and aggravation every time. But I love the game, so I get it to some degree with some of these people. But with a brand new game, like I won't like Ark 2. I will not invest in Ark 2. I can guarantee you that. There's no way I'm playing that game. Wildcard's done enough. I'll get through Ascended. Ascended is basically a cleaned up, mocked up, brand new version of Ark Survival Evolved, which I loved. This one's got a new coat of paint and some new features on it, quality of life improvements and all that. I wanted it. Boom. I was hesitant, but I wanted it. The price was right, and I was like, you know what? I'm willing to spend that amount of money for this experience. I know what I'm getting, but you still hope for more every time. Now, Ubisoft has one more big game coming out this year, and that's part of their flagship franchise, Assassin's Creed. And this is the Assassin's Creed Shadows game, which goes back to like Valhalla and Origins and all that, which are these larger open world Assassin's Creed games, which are more like role-playing games than they are the original Assassin's Creed games. This one's set in feudal Japan, and there's a lot of controversy around it. The main thing being that it's a DEI-ridden game because they chose a black protagonist. Yes, it's a real historical figure. He was never a samurai. That's a story made up by an author named Thomas Lockley, who wrote some story, fan fiction about him, whatever. And, for some reason they embraced this character and made him the main character, which is stupid. You don't go to play a game set in feudal Japan to play as a black protagonist. I don't care how you gaslight things, how you spin things, or whatever, however you want to put it, none of it makes sense. There's no way to make that make sense. It's stupid, and it's obvious pandering. And then they showed some fight scene, and they play some hip-hop style music to it. There are buildings designed that aren't Japanese, but Chinese. The writings, there's all kinds of little weird things. They stole a flag design. It's just insane what's going on with this game. And I'm curious, when this one is released, interest in Assassin's Creed has fallen off for a few years now. A lot of the original fans and all that don't like this new direction that they go with these larger open world games. They want these tighter games like the original series, the original couple games and all that. They want these tight experiences that you can get through in 10, 15 hours, not another, here's a 100-hour game where you got to go out and collect feathers and you got to go out and make little piles of rocks and, no. People are tired of that kind of stuff. And Ubisoft has become the company that puts out games that are, these open world games that are big and they're ambitious in there, and quite often they look very nice. I will say that Outlaws is a little disappointing in how it looks. I'm not sure what happened there. But for the most part, they put out a good-looking game, but they start to feel uninspired and repetitive, and it doesn't matter what skin they put on the game. It's the same game. It's this large, repetitive, open-world game full of quests that don't really mean anything, these little side quests and all that, and little side games and activities and all that, and it's just designed to eat up your time, So we'll see what happens when that game releases. Ubisoft, at the current state, is mismanaged, and shareholders are hostages of Guillemot family members and Tencent who take advantage of them, the hedge fund asserts. Management is focused on pleasing investors with beating quarterly results and not focusing on long-term strategy to provide exceptional experience for the gamers. Ubisoft's share price has fallen more than 50% over the last year, taking it near a 10-year low. That hurts, man. That's really, really bad. Ubisoft needs to get it together, Now, in addition to these games and stuff like that, there's a lot of bad practices they're doing, like new games that were coming out, Outlaws and this next Shadows game. They both had day one missions that are available in the game day one, locked behind higher priced or higher tiered versions of the game. Like they'll put out a basic game, then they'll put out a digital deluxe and an ultimate edition and all that. Digital deluxe usually has a couple extras to it, skins or whatever, and an ultimate edition or something like that will usually have a season pass and sometimes early access. Sometimes early access for both higher tier versions, 3 days of early access. They'll throw in art book, soundtracks, and now they're throwing in missions that exist inside the game on day one, but you can't get them if you buy the basic game. It's weird. And they have their Ubisoft Connect thing, which is I think $17 or $18 a month roughly. That's their lot. That's their service to play Ubisoft games for free, essentially, for as long as you have that service. So it's kind of like Game Pass, but it's strictly for Ubisoft. EA does something like that as well. And that's something that, and they advertise it heavily, like, well, don't, instead of spending $130 on Assassin's Creed Shadows, you can spend $17 a month and play it when it comes out, day and date. It's like, well, I don't like these. I'm not a fan of these subscription plans with these gaming companies like that. It's bad enough that we've got stuff like Game Pass and PlayStation Network and all that, that are offering you to play games that you don't own. You can have them temporarily for a few months or whatever until they take them off the market. But now, if we get more and more of these gaming companies doing that, it's just going to be worse and worse, Yeah, what's next? Capcom, Square Enix. Who's next to do this? And then what are you going to do? Everything, everybody wants to move things to a subscription model, and that's so frustrating. I miss owning stuff. I really do. I miss owning things. And, when you have subscription services to watch movies and all that, instead of buying DVDs or Blu-rays or Ultra HD Blu-rays now, subscription services to play games instead of buying a copy of the game and downloading it onto your computer and playing it. Even like stuff you buy to use as tools, a lot of times, software. They want a subscription service now. I use something called Beacon for my Arc servers. And I bought it, I think, for $20 a few years ago for Ark Survival Evolved. And it was great. I loved it. I used it. It was perfect. Excellent tool. For Ark Survival Ascended, it moved to a subscription service or an annual fee. And it's just like, how long are we going to keep doing this, guys? It gets frustrating after a while. How much money... to me, it just comes across as greed all across the board. And, but I get it. You want to make money. People want to make money. Companies want to make money. Okay, it is what it is. There's no way to stop it. Anyway, let me know what you think about Ubisoft down below. I've been telling, yelling into the void. Once the investors start to notice these things, they're the ones that are going to have to stand up. They're the ones that are going to have to complain. They're the ones that are going to have to be the change in these companies and hold people like Yves Guillemot accountable. And I believe I mentioned that in a couple videos for Assassin's Creed Shadows coming up. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to ring that bell for notifications. I will see you all next time. Until then, peace.